a scientist.
Suffice it that the blood of 1,000 men and women was spilled within these walls. Limbs twisted and broken, eyes gouged from bloody sockets, flesh burned black.
Please. You're with the dead. In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes. What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has by the tail.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
We're excited because we've got a great guest tonight, Mr. Mark Hazelwood, author of 2 books.
Yep.
Blindsided, Planet X, Earth Changes, and Delicate Earth. And Mark, are you there with us? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here, and thank you again for having me on.
Oh, thank
Absolutely.
you for coming on. I just wish that. How's the quality of the mics now? Are we still muffled?
There's a small type muffle, but don't worry about it.
Okay, good.
It's
Well,
not like before.
How now we see that in Delicate Earth. I wanted to tell all of our listeners. This is really awesome. At the back of your new book, he thanks a lot of the people that have that he's talked to over the years. A lot of notable people, and that's why I was really shocked when I saw my name in the back of it, because there's a lot of really not only famous but really notable and really intelligent scientists, television and radio people. The Pope is even listed in here.
Huh.
Just a lot of really prominent people, and he did list me in the back, and so got to plug the show there. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Well, anyone that helps get the word out is just as important as someone else has contributed to, uncovering this knowledge.
That makes sense.
Well, first of all, let me give all the listeners our toll-free, or not toll-free, I'm sorry, our line call number is 336-909-1073. If you got a question for Mark, we're going to have to click over to you because one of our hybrids isn't working with our equipment tonight.
Yeah.
So it'll be just like caller waiting. We'll put Mark on hold. We'll get your question. We'll say bye to you. Then we'll jump back over to him, and we'll ask him the question. He can answer it. But first of all, I know everybody's dying to hear. And I guess we're going to have to give them some background on this whole Planet X situation.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to do this is to let Mark explain it. I know it's part of a binary solar system. And go ahead and give them the breakdown, Mark.
Pardon me?
Go ahead and give them the breakdown on the binary solar system, if you don't mind, for the people that are listening maybe for the first time that don't have an idea of any of the history of Planet X or anything like that.
Okay, well, I guess to give an overall background of how solar systems are set up, it's it's kind of like God put a reset button on just about every solar system, and here's the way He did it. About 74% of solar systems are binary. That's 2 suns.
Okay.
About 24% have 3 suns. Now, we are average. Our solar system, in that we have 2 suns.
Okay.
Most people don't know that this is a binary system, but you can find this in obscure encyclopedia here and there. It is supposedly classified information, but you know how things slip out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
But if you study the orbits of our planets carefully and factor in the fact that it's binary, everything fits. Anyway, the reason I bring that up is not because that our second sun is any threat. It is a little different than most second suns in that it's dark. So that's the reason why we don't see it clearly seen. We know where it is.
Does it still generate heat and waves like our yellow sun, or is it?
Well, I'm sure it's a lot different since it's dark. I couldn't tell you anything about the makeup of this second sun, to tell you the truth.
That's very interesting.
But the point I want to get to is the average solar system also has what's known as at least one dwarf in it. Now, a dwarf is simply a name, a label that's given for a cross between a sun and a planet. Now, it has some slow smoldering qualities about it, similar to a sun, but it isn't ignited also.
Okay.
So it's larger than a planet, regular planet, denser than a regular planet, and it carries with it a lot of other debris and smaller objects and planets with it. So it has its own solar system around it. And the average solar system has this dwarf that orbits back and forth around the suns. So when these dwarfs come through the solar systems, they generally disrupt the surfaces of the planets they pass when this happens.
So this is where you're getting the crust shifting on the Earth's surface.
Right. So, the Earth is not special in that, we have this dwarf that comes through every approximately 3,650 years because it affects the surfaces of all the planets. In fact, just during its approach, it comes up from the southern hemisphere. A lot of its solar system of objects that come prior to it start interacting with the sun and start changing the surfaces of the planets even prior to coming in, and that's why we're having all this so-called global warming. But the same thing's happening on Mars, so obviously it has nothing to do with our dirty little civilization, which is what some people are trying to blame it on. I mean, if it's happening on Mars and different planets, and you can search the ice cores on this planet and realize it happens regularly here, with or without our little dirty civilization. It like I said, clearly that blaming global warming or the uptick in volcanism and earthquake activity has nothing to do with our civilization here. It is a purely natural phenomena. This kind of thing happens on a regular basis in most all solar systems when the dwarf comes through. Now, to the extent of what happens when it passes, nobody knows, and I'm not going to begin to predict, but I can say what has happened in the past. The last 14 passages in my first book, Blindsided, there's obvious ecological evidence for the passage of our dwarf, the last 14 passages. And when I say obvious, more than likely there were some major catastrophic events that happened during the passage itself, if not during the approach, like what is happening now.
Now, I know last time we talked about this has been 2002, I think was the last time we talked about when your first book came out.
Right.
You had said that the sun, or not the sun, but this binary sun that's going to pass through, it's going to be like, 20 million miles away. But this is just to show you the impact of something even that far away in the bigger, reaches of outer space. Something that far away that's going to come. It's not even really that close. When we're thinking distance from you and me, on Earth and everything, it's not even really that close. But that 20 million miles difference, that's going to cause, I guess, a gravitational effect on the Earth that's really going to disrupt it.
Well, it's not our second sun never gets any nearer to us. It's kind of locked in a perfect standoff. So the sun never gets near us. But the dwarf, when it comes through, even millions of miles away, even up to 20 million miles, the electrogravitational wave, when it passes, can latch on to the surface of the planet and cause the rotation to temporarily pause. I mean, this has been documented in many ancient texts talking about this. I mean, a lot of modern scientists who don't understand this, when they read it, they write it off like it didn't happen, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But, if you put it all together and you see, the events in the solar system for how they really happen and in all solar systems, you'll know that, this pausing of the Earth's rotation for a day or so as it passes is something that has happened in the past and could happen in the future. And could happen in the immediate future, within a few months to a few short years. I'm not going to say when. I went to that party once and fell for a piece of disinformation and never will again.
Yeah,
but
I think we were saying 2003 last time. And
well, when I first got a hold of this information, you see, I was totally green or unaware to the huge amount of disinformation in and around the subject. The people that understand the nature of this thing and the fact that it's inbound and close, they are also involved in huge business activities throughout the world, and this information, of course, is bad for business.
Of course it is.
So tell me, how did you get started in this business of finding out about this? I mean, how did you meet the there's a lot of very educated astronomers and scientists that mentioned throughout your book. I mean, how did you meet these?
James McCaney had a lot to do with
Yeah,
that.
Mr. McCaney. How did you get started with all this, Mark?
Well, I didn't. The majority of these people I did not meet. Now, I work with James McKinney, of course. In fact, I have an interview with him next week. We'll be on the air together.
Oh, okay, great. What show?
Yeah.
That's Night Search.
Night Search. Okay.
Yeah, but the way I got started was, I was a kid in the '60s, and I was introduced to different Earth change prophecies. These things, they come and go like the wind. But it's kind of strange. Over the years, I kept my finger, on the back burner, burning now and then, of these Earth change prophecies, because they all sort of coincided with the same type of scenarios that may come up, in a few short years or so.
Let me. I don't mean to change the subject roughly on you, but I know you had a lot of trouble as far as the first book, getting it out and getting it distributed. A lot of the trouble with certain government agencies causing it not to be distributed and causing a lot of disinformation. Did you find that you had the same trouble with Delicate Earth?
No, I didn't. Well, they're not allowing it in the bookstore, so in that respect, I had the same sort of trouble. But they are not meant. See, the powers that be understand what's in Delicate Earth, I guess. It's very pointed. It's all scientific. There's no prophecy in it whatsoever. It's exactly what they don't want people to know, so they won't mention it. See, Blindsided, they did their best to tear it up and squash it and buy the company that was printing the book here and then stop printing the book when it was their #1 seller. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff went on, and the list is so long and I don't want to get into it. But this book, they've made the decision that it's too hot to even mention. They've never mentioned that I've come out with a second book. They won't even utter it.
Oh well, hey, it's just amazing, the amount of information that not only was in the first book but in the second book. There's just a whole compilation of letters that you've received, interviews. I mean, it's an enormous database really on Planet X.
Well, what I did on the second book, I realized that I personally was being attacked for my writing the first book. So I took myself out of the second book. I hardly write anything. I simply paid attention to everyone else's good research over the course since I wrote the first book until I thought I had enough information for the second book, and simply allowed everyone else to say what they've uncovered for the second book. So, if you're going to attack the second book, you're
Can't attack you.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more people to attack.
Right, yeah. So you better check what you're going to say about it before you attack it, because I let everyone else speak, and a long list of people. And if you start attacking it, you're attacking everyone. And you're not going to look good.
No,
yeah, definitely.
So they don't attack it, they don't mention it.
Well, like I said, once again, it is an overwhelming thing, and I guess you're taking more of an editor compiler standpoint on that.
That's all I did.
And that's a great thing. I mean, it's all the information that you could want about the subject matter, and it's all in one easy to read volume. I mean, it takes some of these really, really hard. That's one thing I do like about the book, is it takes some of these harder concepts that some people may have trouble understanding, and it breaks them down into everyday, user-friendly layman's language.
Well, I mean, you need to spread the information and have people make it readily available and understandable, and see what the.
And if for people who want, to dig into the science, I point towards McKinney. Okay, go buy his books if you really want to dig in there.
Right.
No, is McKinney
bite
still
into it a lot more deeply than I do.
Oh yeah. Well, is McKinney still a professor at a university, or is he now just doing a kind of a solo
No,
research?
no, he hasn't been a professor in the university for quite some time. He's an
okay.
independent scientist, which is extremely rare. Most scientists are bought and paid for and told what to say and do, and that's how they get their paycheck, and they know what they have to do in order to continue to get that paycheck. He's a rogue scientist that got trained and and actually taught in the Cornell University, where all the NASA bigwigs get their education.
Wow.
So he's like a thorn in their side.
Yeah, I guess so.
Which is just beautiful as far as I'm concerned.
Let me pause real quick, Trent. Let me
okay.
give the call-in number. Anybody that wants to call in and ask Mark a question about Planet X, or the first book, the Earth Changes book, or anyone that wants to call in and talk about Delicate Earth, the number here is 336-909-1073. Give us a shout and let Mark know what you want. Go right ahead, Trent.
Well, going back to actually this is sort of related to NASA. I mean, obviously NASA they have to know what's going on. They have to have seen this, and they have to realize the danger that it poses. But as you said before, there's disinformation, and I guess, I don't know if cover up is the word for it, but I mean, obviously NASA knows about it. So, in your opinion, I mean,
cover-up's a good word.
Oh well, okay, cover up
But
then.
anything that will, I mean, they're even blatant about it nowadays. They will announce, look, if anything that is coming that they know about has a potential of a catastrophic nature, the open policy is not to mention it.
Huh.
I mean, I've heard this on major media. I mean, it's just a casual kind of open policy. So it's not really all that far-fetched that they would cover it up.
Yeah.
Obviously they're going to cover something up, that cataclysmic.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so what do you think NASA? I mean, do you think NASA has some kind of plans, some kind of contingency plan whenever this thing goes down? And I guess it really relates to governments too. Do you think they have some sort of strategy, seeing as they know?
They've been getting ready for this possible event, because I don't know exactly what will come about. I don't think they know either. They simply know what has come about, what is likely to come about. That's all you can talk about. But I mean, there's a dome home community up in Lake Mont, Georgia, and if you talk to the carpenters that built the thing, they'll tell you why it was built. Because the NASA scientists 35 years ago were worried about Planet X coming. Okay, so it's been the knowledge, as far as NASA goes, has been around for quite some time. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg of the leaks, the casual leaks that have come through here and there, all over. I mean, there's some over 100 different underground cities that have been built. And the guy who actually originally brought out this information, as soon as he got the maps of of where the cities were, and basically pointed them out, he was killed. I mean,
you gotta be kidding me. That's really
kidding.
oh man, that's
how many people?
Serious.
How many people do you think, if Planet X comes, let's say it comes tomorrow or next year? How many people do you think will survive the initial impact?
It's first of all, it's not an impact.
The flyby, the passage. Yeah.
It's a passage.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now that
bad
doesn't
verb.
mean that with all the rogue solar objects that come through prior and with it and afterwards, there can't be one or two that could impact. I mean, the majority of the cratering on Earth and the Moon happens during the time when Planet X comes through. Okay. So if you think about that for a while, there's a good possibility there could be an impact, but not of Planet X.
No,
but as far as with the Earth crust shifting and maybe possibly new polar caps formed on the Earth, which would be kind of like a new ice age in certain places.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the reason for the so-called ice ages that everyone first learned when they were in grade school. I mean, the ice doesn't suddenly on a regular basis start coming down.
It just decides to spread
or
for no
coming up
reason.
from the poles. That's ridiculous. There has to be a reason for that, and it's the passage to these extrasolar objects. And Planet X is not the only solar object out there. There are many. extrasolar objects out there that possibly we don't even know about, or even NASA doesn't know about, that could show up next week and do the same thing as Planet X. I mean, you know, we live in the wilds of the solar system, and the only thing they ever talk about in the major media, and even in our great so-called educational universities, is gradualism. That's all they talk about in the science class. Everything happens gradually. Well, yes, things do happen gradually between catastrophes. Things settle in, and gradually things try to get back to normal. And then a catastrophe comes again, and gradualism starts again, and so on and so forth.
So
they only teach half the story. Is what's
Yeah, of
going
course.
on.
You know, they don't want to.
well, do you think that these geodesic domes that NASA's been building,
Yeah.
what makes these? I guess what I'm asking you is what makes these a superior structure to survive something?
A dome is the strongest structure known to man. In fact, there's been several hurricanes that have really gone the full test. It's the shape of the dome. You don't even have to build
There's
it
no
with the
size.
strongest materials. In fact, these domes up in Lake Mount, Georgia, believe it or not, they were built of wood. I wouldn't think of building a dome with wood, but even a dome built of wood, just because of the shape of the structure, if you push on one side of it, the entire structure supports that push. So that you can have 200, 300 mile an hour winds on one of these domes, or like at one dome, a tornado went right over it, and the only thing that happened was a pole kind of went in one side of it and put a tiny little hole in it, but the people inside hardly even noticed it when it happened. I mean, a dome is extremely, well,
It's safe.
it's supportive of any pressure on any part of it. I mean, just picture a dome is basically kind of like a flying saucer almost.
Yeah.
It's a perfect shape for wind.
Yep.
Well, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. There's no
Also,
size.
quakes. I mean, they're impervious to quakes. Now, if you had a flood that basically, came up over the dome, well, then you can kiss yourself goodbye.
Yeah, the pressure of the water is
Yeah, so you got to build a dome in the right place as far as floods, floods
to avoid
go.
that.
Okay,
No.
and water is the worst part of any situation.
Oh, yeah.
That's true, and
Comes through.
as we've seen last year with a major tsunami that was caused by seismic event, and if Planet X passes by and causes all these sort of tectonic
Shift.
cataclysms, then there has to be a clear danger of massive tidal waves, and since a good portion of the population on the planet Earth live near large water sources, I mean that could be a disaster of just
Record proportions.
unimagined proportions.
Well,
So
I do have a
Well,
question.
there you go. You hit it right on the head. That is the major concern about a Planet X passage. It isn't the quakes that would happen worldwide. It isn't even the wind that could pick up and blow things over. It's the water. 90+% of the population lives within 50 to 100 miles of the shorelines on this planet, and that's just about how much these tsunamis would come in during the passage with the crust moving like it could.
yeah.
So that's it. That's the potential. It could.
Well,
It's kind of I suppose I represent someone who simply wants to give people an honest warning of what could possibly happen. But I don't want to scare people at the same time, simply because, as far as I'm concerned, this whole realm of form is a bit of a dream.
yeah.
And and you can't. No one really dies. It's like a video game. When you die in a video game, you get right back up and go again.
Well, and a lot of people do feel that way. I do have a question for you. I know the last time we had talked in 2002, I was in North Carolina. I'm back in North Carolina, obviously. I did move to Florida later in I guess 03, 04, but yeah, 03. But and I noticed that you're now living in Florida.
I'm still living in Florida because I got family here. I got a grandson. I got my son.
Oh, that's
I
great.
got my mother. I got my sister. But my sister's bought a place right up there in North Carolina.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Where,
yeah?
where at?
Yeah, but that wasn't because of Planet X. It just happenstance.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
No.
that's what I would. That's kind of coming to the crux of my question. was I know at the time you said North Carolina would probably, you felt at the time would be a safer place, and you felt that Florida would be probably one of the worst places to be because obviously it's surrounded by water.
Yeah, not a good place.
So are you still at the time I think you were living in Canada, but do you still believe that Florida is probably not the best place to be, or well, especially after this?
I mean, we're just a few feet above sea level.
Yeah,
here. I mean, tsunamis, we're certainly, well, Central Florida is better, of course, than the shoreline.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But some huge tsunamis. I guess well, the thing about tsunamis is we have a lot of forests here in Florida,
Yeah.
and forests are really good for knocking down tsunamis. So if a tsunami started coming in, about 5 or 10 miles, even a good, huge one, probably wouldn't make it all the way to Central Florida. But who knows?
That's true.
I'm not saying I know how huge these tsunamis can get.
That's true.
Or how far they come inland, but I know that forests are good for that, even in flatland.
That's true.
Well,
Also, maybe living in a place that's sort of free of where the plates join. If you can find a spot like that, I know North Carolina doesn't really have any major fault
we've got
lines.
a fault line. We've got a fault line up.
Well, it's not like San Andreas out in
God, no.
California or
Yeah,
anything
God,
like
no.
that. But would you imagine that would be a reasonably safe place to be? Outside.
Well, a lot of the survivalists have flocked to North Carolina, among other places. There's a list of other places in the United States that are supposed to be good, but even a lot of the powers that be have recognized North Carolina as a place that they've already long ago bought their survival places and have just got them on hold there.
I guess why I'm asking why why are you still in Florida? I know your family's there, but I'm wondering why you didn't choose maybe a better place to prepare for the impact, or is it something that you're just not anticipating anytime very, very soon, or is it something that you're just like you said
it
before?
has nothing to do. First of all, I'm not. I don't have any fear of dying. All right, so maybe that's wrong. And I don't really care.
Not necessarily.
I figure I will be in the place that I'm supposed to be, and I'm also very aware, as Professor McKinney is, that we are not alone in this vast universe, which is ridiculous to think we are.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a likelihood, and I'm not saying that this is the God's truth, but there's a likelihood that there may be some rides offered prior to this event.
Oh.
Okay. And if I have to stay here, I'm crossing my fingers. I might catch a ride, beam me up, Scotty, type of thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hey,
I
you wouldn't be the
giggle
only
and
one
laugh
on the
when
ride.
I say this, but there's an element of truth in it for me because I'm having to be here. But having to be here is because my son is broken up with his wife, and they share custody of my grandson, so he has to stay here to see his son.
I see.
I have to stay here to be around him and my grandson.
Oh, I
My
understand that.
sister's family lives here. My mother lives here. What am I going to do? Move away? Come
Yeah.
on.
Now,
All
for
right,
the-
Planet X or no Planet X, that's where I've been assigned, so to speak. So, I'm just
Yeah.
going along with the program.
Now, for those listeners that don't know, Mark, your father didn't he write some songs for Frank Sinatra?
Yeah, he wrote a number one. He didn't write. He produced a number one
okay.
hit for Frank Sinatra called "Something Stupid."
Great
In
song.
fact, Frank kind of twisted his arm to produce that because he was kind of trying to stay underground at the time, partying on a beach community when Frank flew in with a helicopter.
Wow.
But he did have some really wild success in the '60s with Nancy Sinatra. He had 40 or 50 hits with her,
Wow.
including
No kidding.
"These Boots Are Made for Walking"
That's
and
what I
several
remember.
duets that he used to sing with her.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
It
It's
is.
amazing. Now,
Yeah, that's another life for me because I don't really see him much anymore. And he lives in Vegas, and it was some wild times though growing up in the '60s around that whole community.
I can imagine.
we
Yeah.
both said it.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and we definitely we're gonna take a short break, and we're gonna be right back in about 5 minutes with more Mark Hazelwood. We've got a number here. It's 336-909-1073. Give us a call,
guys.
Let us know. World of the Unexplained.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, great. That I want to mention on the break. That was, I don't know why these songs are really, the streaming quality on them is really no good. I'm gonna have to fix that next week. But that was Mud Junkie. They're a local band out here. They're really good. You should check them out at mudjunkie.com. We're back once again, like I said, with Mark, and talking about Delicate Earth, the newest book.
We had just made a point to just talk during the break to mention a little bit about solar flares and solar phenomenon and how they affect our little fragile Earth.
Okay, well, enlighten me.
Oh, I don't.
Okay.
I just realized that it's really kind of complicated, but I realize that the sun produces a heck of a lot of electromagnetic force every now and again, and it flares up. It's cyclical. The sun is just like a very complicated magnet, I guess, or a power generator or something like that.
I know this dwarf is would you describe it more like a comet, Mark, or what?
Well, yeah, when
because I know I saw some references to Hell Bop.
When the big guy comes through, it does break into a huge comet, in that it has a tail, and the reason it has a tail is because it changes electrically when it gets into the immediate atmosphere of the solar system, and it starts pulling in all the debris that hangs in the balance of the solar system. So there's all kinds of fossil fuels and meteors and water, all kinds of junk that just hangs out there. That's kind of held in place by the sun's electromagnetic field. When a comet comes through, it develops a negative charge as it comes through, and it pulls in all this material. And that's how some of these comets can grow into huge planets. Is that material it gets pulled into the planet or the nucleus of the comet that is broken into a comet when it's in the solar field.
Just adding,
and it's that debris that forms the tail, or it gives it the comet qualities. But even prior to the big guy coming in, there's a lot of little comets that are part of the solar system that come in, and they start interacting with the sun, and the sun starts to go crazy and emit all kinds of what is known as coronal mass ejections and lesser flares. And it's these emissions from the sun. Coronal mass ejection would be the entire surface of the sun lifting off into a huge flare, and that's what's been happening on a regular basis. And what you mentioned before is there is a regular cycle of events where we're supposed to have a solar maximum and a solar minimum, but it turns out that the solar maximum at the end of '99 should have broken down to into a minimum a couple years ago. But we actually, at that time, because of all these extrasolar objects that are streaming in from the southern hemisphere, accompanying Planet X, we've now got into a huge solar maximum when we're supposed to be in the solar minimum, and it never stopped. The solar maximum that's supposed to peak in the end of '99 never stopped and just grew. It grew greater and greater, and we've never seen this in all of history. And this is the kind of stuff that isn't really being put out to the major media, that is, of course, directly tied to the global warming and the uptick in volcanism and quakes and, of course, the tsunamis. And when they report these major events that have been going on, it seems like regularly now, they, of course, do their best to try to downplay any connection with the sun, of course. And then when they kill thousands or millions of people, like the tsunami last year killed upwards of 10 million people, they will play it down and say only 250,000 people died. But actually tens of millions of people. If you study the population density maps of the area that were directly affected by the tsunami, and understood how how deeply the tsunami went into the shoreline, you would know that 120 million people were directly in the line of fire of this tsunami.
Wow.
And if you listen to the first reports of the helicopter flyovers, they said it was the worst than even a nuclear device that they've ever seen as far as the devastation goes. But then they're still downplaying it today and saying anywhere from 180,000 to 300,000 dead. So that's all just media cover-up, because they don't want people to understand that we're right in the middle of an uptick of major Earth changes that usually accompany a passage of an extrasolar object.
Now, I want to ask about.
Not good for business.
No, absolutely.
Not. I want to ask.
Trouble.
I want to ask about how you think. Do you think that these are what's causing these changes? Do you think that that's also what was responsible for Hurricane Katrina and all the hurricanes, the massive amount of hurricanes we had in Florida the year before?
Well, yeah. The majority of the hurricanes in fact, there's been more hurricanes, I think, this last year than ever.
Yeah,
broke
it's
all
crazy.
records.
Yeah, they're naming them Alpha and
because they ran out of
going through
names
the whole
for
Greek
them,
alphabet.
And we even had a storm in January.
Oh, I know. It was
I
awful.
remember that.
Almost reached the hurricane status. Zeta was the name of it.
Oh, it was
I don't know
unbelievable.
why they got all the way to the end of with the Z's. I don't understand that.
So you think that that's...
Yeah, this uptick in storm activity is directly tied because all these storms they're not caused by, and if you just listen carefully what I just said about Zeta, a storm forming in the end of December, January. Where's the warm water? I mean, they continually say these storms are caused by warm water. That's all nonsense. These storms are caused by electrical activity streaming in from the upper atmosphere. Where does that come from? Our sun. Why is the sun putting out all this activity? These objects coming through. So it's a 1, 2, 3 ABC kind of connection that's going on here, and they don't want to connect the dots, of course.
No, I would imagine. I would imagine also this these solar ejections have to have some kind of negative effect to our modern way of life. I mean, radio and anything being transmitted through the the airwaves are going to be decimated by this stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I've heard a lot of these, especially the what do they call this radio? The type of radio that gets mostly affected by this electrical activity. Oh God, help me here.
I'm thinking.
I forget. I have it off the top of my head. Anyway. Yeah,
Regardless.
radio is being disrupted, that's for sure. I can't remember the name right this minute. I don't know why. Shortwave, excuse me.
Yeah,
I
shortwave
got
radio.
a short
That's
memory here, and I can't even say shortwave. Anyway, yeah, there's been a lot of actually, also cell phones have been affected.
Oh, absolutely.
And they do their best to put as many redundant satellites up there because they know what's happening.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the owners of these companies understand that the solar activity is taking out the satellites, but they're doing their best to get as many redundant satellites up there for the cell phones. But still, the cell phone quality is not what it used to be because of all the solar flaring. But storms like Katrina and the others, there is a tie-in to the solar activity that they're not going to talk about. But at the same time, we've had weather manipulation technology that has been covered up in a myriad of different ways. So where the storms are going and the intensity levels can be manipulated, but the forming of the storm cannot.
Now,
So if you just simply count the number of storms, we're way out of the ballpark of where we should be. Now, where they're hitting and the intensity, that's manipulated, that's played with for a number of different reasons behind the scenes. And then the information, of course, is watered down completely by the time it gets out to the mass media. And by the time they hear about storm manipulation, they think it has everything to do with HARP or chemtrails or something.
That's where I was going.
With what it actually is, which is satellite technology.
Okay, so they're using the satellites to manipulate the weather.
Well, yeah, well, they manipulate existing storms. That they can't form storms.
Okay, well that's
They
good.
can manipulate, they can steer and manipulate existing storms, and that's what they've done for a number of different reasons. There's huge contracts that were awarded to Halliburton,
Oh,
which
sure.
is, Bush and gang-owned company, right after
yeah.
to rebuild New Orleans. So,
And guess
it's
where the
all
gas
about
prices
money.
go? They go through the roof, you know.
It's a money game, and they played down the number of deaths. I mean, the mayor just immediately said there was at least 10,000 deaths there. What are they saying, 1,200 now?
Something.
And that was just in New Orleans alone. I mean, Mississippi, oh, geez, there could have been 100,000 people died during the whole event.
It's
and they
awful.
just
Horrible.
covered it all up.
I mean,
It's just, it's kind of disheartening to let them do that. But it's all about business. They don't want people to know because they want business to continue. And, down here in Florida, I mean, this is a major death state for hurricanes. Every time a hurricane
yeah.
comes through, I mean,
That's
hundreds, if
awful.
not thousands of people die, and they cover it all up. And, is it wrong? Is it right? Well, I don't know. I'm not gonna judge it. As far as business goes, it's right.
Yeah, it makes money.
And if
Great for
I
business.
own the businesses, I'd certainly want it covered all
Yeah.
up. Or if I own the real estate, I want it covered up, I guess.
All that
But
destruction
if
would
you-
make a lot of money.
But if you care about life and you care about families and you care about your loved ones, you don't want them to move in a place that's where there's constantly people
God, no.
dying because of huge storms coming in, just leveling places left and right.
Do you think that this weather manipulation could also possibly be the government's attempts to sort of maybe sort of have test runs? You can steer and manipulate the weather patterns. Maybe they're testing the equipment, so to speak. So whenever the real thing comes around, they could use it to their benefit to protect
Certain places. maybe.
certain places. I mean, what do you think about that, Mark?
Well, I would hope by the time this thing comes that the technology is handed over to the right people. But right now
Right.
it's in the wrong hands.
Oh,
and
definitely.
they're obviously using it for the wrong reasons. But it can be used, and it was developed for the right reasons. In
Yeah.
fact, McKinney had something to do with that. He uncovered the science behind it. He offered it to the United States. They declined. He gave it to the Russians, and then the Russians they used it and they perfected it, and then they offered it to the United States to alleviate our hurricane problem. And this made nationwide news back in the 90s, and we ignored it, and we did not respond because we already had it, and the people that were using it had other things in mind, like
So-
Katrina events, etc.,
So the-
where they can make all kinds of money with it and kill people on the side, and they don't care about that, though.
No, of course
So-
not.
so-
These people are heartless.
So apparently, other governments, like you say, are have the technology, and you hope that perhaps they will use it for what it's intended to be used for, and to protect as much, life and that they possibly can, whenever the
Well,
the
I would
dwarf
hope
comes in.
that by the time Planet X comes in, it gets into the right hands.
Yeah.
The same people aren't allowed to do what they have been with it.
I have
But
to-
other governments do have it. But you see, certainly the Russians have it, but they don't really have a great need to protect themselves because
No.
they don't have a huge storm problem like we do.
Or earthquakes, for that matter, from
No,
what I
definitely not.
understand, except southern Russia, I guess.
Well,
Well, and also the Russians, they built underground cities like we have here in the United States, although, they're largely covered up unless you do
Yeah.
your research about where they are. But in Russia, everyone knows about the underground cities, and there's enough room for the entire population.
There's
But
a-
let me backtrack here.
Okay.
Underground cities, no matter who builds them or where they are in the world, are not the place to be. I mean, if the whole mantle
No.
is shifting, and there's tsunamis actually going through the mantle of the earth, which can and has happened in the past when these passages have happened.
So
You're
it's
not going to want to be underneath.
no, that's the worst place to be. It sounds
I mean,
like.
drown or
I mean,
get crushed.
These people have dreams of, they have these huge digging machines that can dig holes in the earth that are just like 4 lanes of a highway wide. And they have dreams of, well, after the passage we'll dig ourselves out. Yeah, right. Don't cross your fingers. The best place to be is a place like North Carolina in the rolling hills in a dome home. I mean, so you're partially protected by the wind by being in the rolling hills. You're up far enough away from the shorelines and elevation-wise, so when the waters come in, you'll be protected. That's your best bet right there.
That's
I know you. Let me give the number again, because I see you people out there listening. I know how many people. I see you out there. Call us up. 336-909-1073. That number again is 336-909-1073. Ask us a question. Now, I noticed that, I know before when we talked, you had mentioned, and you mentioned it also tonight, about maybe some kind of extraterrestrial connection. What do you have on
that's
that?
just a hope and a dream that that these these beings that I suppose would just be passively watching us, certainly wouldn't be allowed to intervene, but in the event of a passage like this could possibly offer rides to people who would be willing to get off planet or taken someplace where it would be safe. I don't know. This is just,
Speculation.
This is a hope and a fantasy as far as I'm concerned, because I still live in Central Florida. That's why I hold on.
Haven't had anybody knocking on your door.
These ideas.
Saying, "Hey, Mark, grab your things, get your
Let's
people,
go.
let's go."
Well, I know you'd mentioned in the first interview that we had years ago that you had a dream. I think you and your son both had the same dream about water rushing on both sides, and you realized, oh my gosh, this is Florida.
Yeah, that was the reason why I started to do the research and found out that Planet X would be behind the Earth change events, so the prophecies that I've been looking at, and kind of had a casual interest in over the years, and that's what prompted me. Those 2 dreams that we both had within 3 days of each other, to be concerned enough to do the research to find out the cause behind possible Earth changes. Then, after I found out, I thought, oh my God, all the obscure places that I found this information are really not presented in a manner where people could readily grasp it easily, without, being there's a side of me that's quite a bit of a nerd, I guess, that would do that kind of research. Most people wouldn't do that. They
takes a lot
want to pick
of
up a book and read it all at once and get it together. So I thought the onus was on me to do that. I don't know why. I guess I had a messianic complex, thinking that I could save a few people. I don't think that anymore. See, that's just what motivated me to do this. My whole idea about when people will die, I think it all has to do with their own consciousness and level, etc.
Right.
It has nothing to do with being warned about any possible events. So my whole impetus for getting this information out has certainly lessened and changed. I mean, I get on when people ask, and I talk about it freely, and that's about it. I have no grand desire to go out there and save the world anymore. I mean, it doesn't need to be saved as far as I'm concerned anymore. It's all perfect the way it is.
Oh, Lord.
However crazy it is, it's even perfect within its insanity.
Oh yeah.
Well, go ahead.
This actually goes back to the original statement of the dwarf passing by our little planet, and it's just a way out there question, but do you think it's possible that when the dwarf passes by our planet, that it could now you said it would stop the rotation, do you think it
could? I'm not saying it will.
Okay.
It has in the past, because there's records of that. I mean, there's records of this dwarf from all civilizations from the past. Long list. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So do you think there's any kind of a threat that the dwarf would actually have enough punch to knock us out of our orbit as we know it? Is there a threat of that?
Every time it comes by, it does that to a certain extent, and there has to be recalendering. that'll have to be done. That we will not have what we experience today as far as a 24-hour day.
Oh, I see.
It will change. And it has changed during every passage. Now, as far as knocking us out of our orbit and taking us someplace else, I wouldn't suspect it would do that just based on what it's done in the past.
Okay.
That's true.
I mean, but it will change our orbit to enough so where it'll change our seasons. It'll change how many hours in a day. All that has to be reworked. In fact, McKinney's got a book that explains exactly how to go about recalendering and
Really?
when to plant to grow food again and that kind of thing, because that's going to be the number one thing people are going to need to do after it passes. The people that are left.
Yeah.
Food and water, basic
Yeah,
necessities.
I guess so. If the seasons change, then you're gonna have to find out when you need to plant the crops and when to.
It could be summer in January.
Exactly, or something like that. That's
Now, bear in mind that the North and South Pole will always remain the same relative to the sun. It's the mantle that will slip over it.
Okay.
You understand? It's the mantle that slips, that changes and slips. It's like it's if you were to peel an orange and put the orange back on.
In a different place.
The peel back on the orange and then slip that peel.
Slide it around.
Over the orange. The orange will always remain the same. It's relative to the sun.
Okay.
North and South poles will always stay the same, but it'll seem different because the mantle will have changed.
I see.
So it'll fall in different places on the mantle. That's all.
Huh.
So we're talking about possibly the creation of new mountain ranges, the destruction of others, new lakes, new rivers, just a whole new.
There is not a mountain. Every mountain range that you can think of on this earth has been created because of an outside extrasolar object. There is no Earth mechanism to create mountain ranges. There is no energy available, period, in what naturally occurs on Earth to create mountain ranges. Just think about that statement. All of them had to have been created from an outside influence. So yes, new mountain ranges can and will be created. And the only reason quakes happen regularly on this planet is because it's settling from the last events. That's all it is. These huge events happen, new mountain ranges are formed, and then it regularly settles down from the last events, and you have regular quakes. And then and then the whole uptick starts again once the approach of these big objects comes through. And then occasionally a rogue object comes through you don't even expect.
Right. There's a lot of random things spinning out there in the cosmos.
When will we be able to see this with our naked eyes? As far as I know we're not putting a time frame on or anything like that, but what I'm saying is, if we are able to look up in the sky and see this thing coming at us, how much time do you think is left at that point?
Probably not much at all. And to see, even a regular astronomer, it would be hard to see during approach because, first of all, it's coming up from the worst possible direction, the southern hemisphere. And to see things coming in the southern hemisphere, there's only a small window of opportunity to even look in that direction. And a object like Planet X or any sort of dwarf coming in has got a huge amount of debris in front of it that obscures it.
I see what
It's
you're saying.
almost like a fog that comes in ahead of it. And it's very hard to even find the nucleus until it's almost right on top of you.
So at that
And then,
point,
of course, the ancients described it as a serpent in the sky, because when it breaks into a huge comet and you can see it, and all
see
the
the tail.
things that are happening to Earth have already started to happen. It's a wild monster in the sky at that point that can have a tail that could go across the entire horizon of the sky. But it doesn't have to look any more large than our moon when it passes by. It doesn't necessarily look like it's close or it's closing in on it. It could look like just a kind of a large fiery object a few million miles away and still have the same sort of electromagnetic earth-changing events as it passes, because it's a lot larger than us. So even though it appears only as large as our moon, maybe 15 or 20 million miles away, it can wrench our planet as it passes and basically treat it like a piece of trash on the side of its road.
Yeah.
well, we're gonna take another break. Once again, we're with Mark I'm sorry.
What number?
Hazelwood.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, Mark. I was talking to him. He was asking me what
okay.
number to put on the CD. Yeah, we're with Mark Hazelwood once again, author of Blindsided. And call him with your questions. The number here is 336-909-1073. That number again is 336-909-1073. And we'll be right back after this. And we're back with Mark Hazelwood. Mark, how you doing? Still hanging in there with us? I know 2 hours is a while.
2 hours ain't nothing.
All right, good.
First hour seemed like 10 minutes.
It did. It went by. It
Does go
really
by
quick.
fast. That's
I just
what we
wish.
noticed.
I just wish some of our listeners would give us a ring here.
Oh yeah, they're shy.
They're shy tonight.
little bit
I don't
shy,
know
you
what's
know?
going on. They called us last week, and
Yeah, that's true.
of course last week for some reason our equipment here wasn't.
Well, maybe you got a problem with your phone. Who knows?
Yeah, you know, it wouldn't surprise me at this
Yeah.
point.
We're still
again,
early
though,
in the
is-
game. There's a lot of techie
And the phone has
difficulties.
been the problem. So this whole phone thing's been the problem now for the past 2 weeks.
Yeah,
But
it's,
that's going to be fixed, not next week, but the week after.
Yeah, once we get that separate phone line in, that'll change
That'll
things.
solve all the problems in the world. But then
Drastically.
That number again is 336-909-1073, 336-909-1073. Give us a call. Let us know what you think, what you like, what you hate. If you hate us, let us know. If you like us, let us know. But especially, more importantly, if you have a question for Mark, please call in. He's more than happy to answer
yeah.
any and all your questions. 336-909-1073. And I guess we'll get back to it.
Okay.
I want to mention Mark's website.
Yeah, you need to do that. Go
That's
ahead.
www.planetxinbound.com. It is on our website at World of the Unexplained
Mm-hmm.
also, if you don't remember that. But you can pick up a copy of Delicate Earth there, and you can. Mark, can you still pick up a copy of Blindsided there?
Oh, certainly.
Okay, great. So you can pick
Yeah,
up a copy of the first
if you
one.
buy both books, I got a deal there for you.
Oh, good. Now,
Right.
what kind of deal are we talking about here?
Oh, I had to knock off the shipping price.
Oh, okay.
Hey, that's
Yeah,
still.
I think $1 off each book, so it's like $29.95 for both books, and that's it.
Okay, that's not a bad deal. Not a bad deal at all. www.planetxinbound.com. Now I saw maybe it wasn't on your side. I'm not sure. I don't remember. A video, some kind of videos that were released, DVDs or video cassettes talking about the Planet X phenomenon. Are you familiar?
There was
with?
some videos made, and I had a buddy of mine who started selling them, but I never sold them myself.
Okay.
It was just a video of some talks that I think I gave with
McKinney.
McKinney a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, I don't have access to them. I don't even know if they're still being sold or not.
Oh,
I just
But,
saw some streaming on the internet, and I didn't know if you had anything to do with that, or if you had that on your site available also.
No, I just had the couple books. That's it.
Okay, well that's great.
Oh.
Well, let me ask the next question, and that is, what next? I mean, are you gonna continue going down the Planet X path? Are you still trying to discover new information for maybe another upcoming book? Maybe to inform the public more about this, or is this something that you're gonna just kind of back away from and say, hey guys, I've warned you. That's up to you.
Well, to tell you the truth, I've already started down another path. I've already backed away from Planet X, to tell you the
Okay.
truth.
Oh.
And when I say backed away, that doesn't mean that I still won't get on the radio or if
And we appreciate
someone asks
that.
me
yep.
to a talk. It's just I'm not real concerned about putting the information out anymore, simply because I've gotten interested in a whole different subject, and if I ever write a book again, it'll probably be about this other subject.
Oh,
Which is?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you mind us asking?
Yeah, I mean, what if you want?
Unless you
Well,
don't.
yeah,
wanna-
okay. There's a man that I first started reading about back in 1995. He came out with his first book by the name of Dr. David Hawkins,
Okay.
and he used to have the largest psychiatrist practice in the United States and on the board of the Psychiatrists for the United States. And this man has uncovered a way to put a number on people's consciousness.
Huh.
In other words, he uses something called kinesiology, which was originally developed in the 70s, to find out what ails you.
Okay.
And when he saw kinesiology used as far as health purposes goes. He knew that it was not a localized test. He understood it was tapping into a field that we're all connected to. And at that point, he realized that he could find out the truth or the falsehood about anything using kinesiology. And
Really?
so he...
I'm listening.
Go ahead.
I'm listening. I was just making a comment. Go ahead.
All right, and he basically turned this new science, because it is a science. In fact, he proves it without a shadow of a doubt in his first thesis, which is even prior to his book called Power versus Force.
Okay.
That you can actually calibrate people's consciousness via a number. And he uncovered this scale. He made the scale from 0 to 1,000, and it's logarithmic.
Okay.
Huh.
So that he found out that the majority of people actually at a certain point on the scale, and there's a few people that are above that on the scale. The point where most people are below are 200. Like 85% or 78% of the population is below 200 on the scale. 200 represents a watershed point on the scale where people actually start being integrous.
Okay.
And there's another watershed point on the scale, probably the watershed point on the scale at 600. And that is what is known as what classically, according to ancient knowledge and knowledge from the East, as enlightenment, where you finally realize experientially after you cross that point that you are not the part of the matrix anymore.
Oh.
You actually realize that you're the dreamer of this matrix and not the dream, so to speak. Anyway, this is what I'm studying. So I've been working on my consciousness, and I found another guy that's got a website called RevealingTruthNow.com, a young guy, and he has developed some techniques, or just uncovered some techniques, and he's only been at it. He's only 26 years old, but he's got about 23 people in a year over 600 on the scale, which is just unbelievable. Because if you use kinesiology to find out how many people are over 600 on the scale in the world, there are only 110.
Whoa.
So this young man has got about over 20% of the people
That's
that are
impressive.
over 600. He's the one that's helped them get over in a matter of months. Mostly as quick as a year, whereas most people that looked into the subject have taken decades and don't have a roadmap. The kinesiology provides a roadmap
So this is
as
something
to where you're at on the scale.
This is something you can teach other people to become enlightened by giving them some kind of roadmap.
Yeah, well, this roadmap of kinesiology provides the map, and then the techniques that you use in order to move up your consciousness helps with the direction on that map. So you can see what direction you're going depending on the techniques you're using. But things are going very quickly with the group. In fact, he's got 3 people that have come to him, actually, that were already over 600 on the scale to study with him. And these are all older people, simply because he's provided a way for them to even go higher on the scale very quickly, which it seems like most of the other people that dabble in this or discuss it really don't give a quick and easy way to do this kind of thing. Anyway, I've been working on my own consciousness. I'm up in the 500s right now.
Oh.
That was my next question, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm told that once I get crossover, which is supposed to be kindergarten enlightenment, I should never even discuss my calibration at that point because it's because it's too easy to get tripped up when you're in the 600s. You're still fluctuating back and forth between knowing you're the self and the ego. So it's kind of the point where you really don't want to. You want to keep it to yourself. Now,
Oh, you understand that.
his whole idea is to teach teachers. So once we get a group of people 850 or above on the scale, and he's got a few people that are already in the 800s, then he'll start his teaching course. So he'll teach teachers to teach this, because the way he's setting it up is this is easy. This is not something that isn't based in science. that anyone can do this. It's not hard to do. You know, and because of that, I latched onto it. You know, I've read about this stuff off and on before in my life, and accepted some of the things. But you know, without the map, without the techniques,
You don't know where you're
Yeah,
practices,
you just
without the map, you're kind of just sitting there at
you're
that same
lost.
level.
It's like
Yeah.
you're thrown in the sea and say, "Go find the shoreline," and you got a blindfold on, basically.
going like,
Blind leading the blind. And
Yeah.
I guess is, well, you know, it kind of opens it up. You know, the teaching it's kind of like more of a, I don't know if you find the you know, well, it's like any art form or any kind of, you know, religious experience. If you find someone that understands the key concepts and knows where they're going, and you can bring all those
guided.
people together to guide everyone else along
the
the
other
way.
people who want to follow, but they really just don't know how.
Yeah. That's
And
great.
this guy's a regular guy. He's got a wife. He plans on having kids. And the last thing he says is, you know, you don't pay attention to me. I don't represent anything. I mean, it's just the information that I'm giving you. That you know, he basically says he's clueless, but he has enough knowledge to help people get over 600 on the scale.
That's good.
And
That's
that's
great.
that. You know, he doesn't revel in stuff. He doesn't dress differently.
Oh,
Doesn't
yeah,
talk
yeah, yeah.
differently.
Yeah.
He's just a normal guy, you know, and he doesn't teaching you this in a formal fashion. You know, a lot of times there's a lot of laughing during the process.
You gotta keep it open. You know.
Yeah, you
Right. Anyway, also the tie-in with the Planet X thing with this knowledge is, it turns out you can use calibration to find all kinds of things, and it turns out most people only fluctuate in their life within 5 points on the scale.
Okay.
So consequently, they're locked into what they can experience in life, and their date and time of death is pretty much preset. And the only way you can actually break that is to raise your consciousness significantly. And then you start experiencing a whole different realm of what can be experienced in this world. And consequently, your life gets extended also. And so this is more important, as far as I'm concerned, than warning people of an impending disaster. Because if you've raised your consciousness and an impending disaster is coming, well, more than likely you'll just accidentally, and it won't be an accident, be in the right place at the right time. Even if you're in the worst spot, somehow you'll make it.
I see what you're
If
saying.
it's not your time.
And even if it is your time, you're well prepared and equipped to move on to that next level.
and comfortable with it, I guess.
Anyway, so that's what I'm into nowadays.
Oh, okay.
And it's very down to earth. It's very scientific. So you know, it can appeal to a lot more people than you know, Yogi whatever from India dressed in a turban teaching some spiritual message.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
totally understand what you're
Yeah.
saying. All right, well, back to Planet X then. But that's great. And if you do, we're going to keep our eyes out on your. I'm assuming you'll put it on a website, and you know we'll definitely keep our eyes out for that. But let's talk about Russia and their involvement. I know one of the researchers you mentioned, Sitchin, I believe is his last name. I'm not good with Russian names, so if I'm pronouncing that, if I'm slaughtering that,
What's
let me
his
know.
name?
Well, Zacharias Sitchin,
Zacharias Sitchin, yeah.
I don't know whether he's from Russia or not, but what he's uncovered, I mean, he's done some great work. This guy is a scholar. What he did is he meticulously translated ancient Sumerian text.
Wow.
And it turns out the ancient Sumerians knew all about Planet X, and knew about its orbits and how long it takes for it to come back, and what it does when it passes, and they discussed it all on these ancient tablets. And in fact, some of the more obscure information that I didn't put in my first book, and I didn't think I put it in my second book either, but I've uncovered is apparently, according to these ancient tablets, and like I said, they very extensively talk about Planet X. Planet X is supposedly inhabited by beings that are supposedly humanoid and stand, 16 to 35 feet tall, maybe on average 25 feet tall.
Whoa.
And supposedly they were here. They were on Earth for almost 450,000 years, and then they left, and they're not coming back. But
Yeah, apparently they didn't like what they saw.
I guess
Well, no,
the little folk here.
from the best of my understanding of this obscure information in and around this subject that I don't really discuss most of the time, but I will now.
Okay.
These beings, they were here for one reason and one reason only, to mine gold. And not for, because they
Wanted to be
thought it
rich.
was nice and shiny, or
No.
they thought it was valuable, because apparently there is an atmosphere around Planet X, according to this ancient, obscure knowledge, like I said, that I don't discuss in any of my books because it's not relevant to the situation. But
Hey, we're open for
apparently-
anything.
Yeah,
here.
it's very interesting. Keep on going.
Yeah, this is
It's
cool.
interesting,
This is
though.
good stuff.
Apparently, they have to constantly mine. They have outposts all along their orbit where they're mining gold wherever they can find it, because they have to constantly refine this gold into a kind of real fine powder and put it into their atmosphere, because their planet does hold an atmosphere, but it goes through deep space and it constantly loses an atmosphere.
Right.
And somehow, apparently, the gold is supposedly, it holds down their atmosphere, so they continually have an atmosphere and won't lose it.
Well,
But they have to continually work to hold on to it and continually put more gold into the atmosphere. If you can imagine all this to be true. Anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's some of the obscure information
that is
I know.
that's
that,
wild.
what was found in and around this subject matter. And apparently, from what I understand, they, in a kind of obscure but not blatant way, they've been barred from the planet. In other words, they were never told to leave, but certain situations were allowed to come up so where they just made the decision on their own to leave and won't come back because of it.
It's like I said before. I mean, I hold a personal opinion that the our ancestors were a lot smarter and knew a lot more about what was really going on than we give them credit for. That's just my personal opinion, but that's interesting.
Look at
mean-
Stonehenge and some of these other things that we can't explain out there, and there's always there's a number of different explanations for why what that is, why it's there. Who knows? Well,
know,
once
it's
again,
a-
guys, that call-in number is 336-909-1073. 336-909-1073. Give us a call and let us know what you're thinking.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Well, that was really fascinating stuff. I mean,
Okay, well, don't go ahead.
Planet X is inhabited. I guess so. Why not?
Well, I know,
And I know that gold has a lot of very useful properties outside of it just being shiny and pretty. It doesn't corrode. It holds best conductor of electricity.
I've got
all
a
sorts
question.
of things.
I want to get back to
Okay, all right.
more to. Sorry, I want to get back
that's
more
all
to
right.
Zachariah Sitchin. I know in your second book, Delicate Earth, you mentioned that Zachariah Sitchin. Mark, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Was that a
Phone-
call?
I'm not sure why the phone lit up. No,
I
it would
think-
say call.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we thought we had a call. Apparently
Anyway,
we didn't.
okay, go.
I know Zachariah Sitchin. You mentioned in your book that he privately knows the time, and is now the time is now for Planet X's return, and obviously we all know that it's soon, but what I wanted to know was, do you know of anyone, including Mr. Sitchin or anybody else, that claims to know the exact time or a time very, very close to when they think is fairly
Well,
exact?
if someone did tell me, I couldn't believe him one way or the other.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone knows, given the nature of these objects. Once one of these objects comes into our solar system, the orbit becomes erratic. It actually slows down and speeds up. Even the tail, there's a drag from the tail. Imagine that.
Wait,
So
I think
so many
we've got a
different-
call. Can you hang on just a second? We've got a call from a caller. Hold on just a second. We'll be right back with you, Mark.
All right.
Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Mark thinks that the Planet X thing might have anything to do with the Promethean extinction, the major one before the dinosaurs happened.
Okay.
Yes.
The
Can you
Promethean.
ask him?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, caller.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, our caller. Sorry, we're having to bounce back and forth like this. Our caller was asking the question. Go ahead, Trent. You can ask him the question.
Basically, the caller was wanting to know if Planet X was responsible for the Promethean
Extinction of the dinosaurs
that happened prior to the dinosaurs. Like there was a big cataclysmic, almost a good portion of life on Earth was almost wiped out, and I think that's what he was talking about.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, obviously, it was an extrasolar object that was responsible for that. Now, whether it was Planet X related or not, who knows? But any object could suddenly appear and cause that sort of event at any time. And what people really should be aware of is that these type of events don't happen every so many million years, which is the only thing that they ever put out in the major media.
Well, of course.
They always say so many millions of years ago this sort of thing happened.
Well, we no one has to worry about it.
Yeah, we really just don't know. I mean,
so it gives you the idea that it'll never happen in your lifetime.
right.
Well, it turns out the last time, according to the information that I've looked at, ecological evidence, the last time Planet X came through was some 3,650 years ago, and there's quite a bit of evidence for major Earth changes back in somewhere around the mid 1600 BC or so. So we are due right now for another passage of this object, and any other object, like I say, could come in at any time.
Right.
And so it's something that happens every few million years, every 30 million years, or every 6 million years. It's the kind of thing that happens every less than a handful of 1,000 years on this planet. It resets everything here. So we've had major civilizations come and go on this planet, and we're just totally unaware, for the most part, of their existence. And we're taught in grade school that this is the pinnacle of human success, our civilization at this time.
Wow.
Well, I beg to differ. I think in many respects it is, but there are civilizations in the past that have had high technology, higher than ours in different ways, and in some ways probably they didn't do anything like we did.
No.
I mean, in other words, it was a totally different kind of society with totally different development. But still, some of it was, I'm sure, very high-tech in many different ways.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is sort of a segue, but I mean, there's a lot of theories actually. One in particular, speaking of, I don't know, the Great Sphinx is actually a lot older than what modern archaeologists, I think it's a geologist, Dr. Schock, maybe, I think that's his name, and he speculates that the Sphinx itself was built in a time when the Sahara Desert wasn't a desert, that it was a,
it is older than what the modern Egyptians say it is, simply because, see, they have some sort of ego quality about that. They want people to think that, it's our Egyptian ancestors that are just not too long ago that created this thing, but it really I think they modified it somewhat.
Oh.
I don't think the Sphinx had a head on it like that.
No. But
originally,
you hear about the lost cities of it. You hear about the lost city of Atlantis and what happened to them, and a lot of these lost cities. I don't know, one of the Aztec civilization, and I mean,
well, I mean, I think Tiwanaku is one up in the Andean Highlands.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, basically
these.
They build these enormous monuments, and then they're decimated by these solar objects, perhaps, and then another group of people come along and say, "Oh, these are amazing buildings. We're going to build our city here too, but we're going to change it a little bit, and we're going to call it our own." I mean, it's totally possible that's been going on for quite some time.
And I guess go ahead, Mark.
From what I understand, Atlantis was a worldwide civilization, so it wasn't just one city. And it was a monolithic society in that they built their cities based on huge rock technology, and in order for them to have done that, they must have had some sort of high technology in order to move
machinery, yeah, a
those
lot of
huge
machinery.
stones.
Absolutely.
But the best that I can understand from, this is obscure kind of knowledge that I've gotten on the side of studying the subject, is that they were fully aware of these extrasolar objects coming through, including Planet X, on a regular basis. So they built huge, strong structures that they believed would survive, but it was no match for them.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good stopping point there. We're going to take another short break to all you listeners out there. Mark, we'll be with you in just a second,
Okay.
and we'll be back right after this.
All right.
And we're back with Mark Hazelwood. Mark, you still with us?
Oh, I'm right here.
All right, great. Oh man, 2 hours. It's
It's
been flying
flown
by.
by.
Yeah, it's
This
crazy.
is, I mean, like the more I talk about it, the more interested I become, and it's just just you can go on and on, really.
And we were just talking about on the break about how I didn't know, and I don't know how many people didn't, but the lost city of Atlantis. Everyone always calls it, the lost city. I had no idea that it was a worldwide type of thing. And Mark was telling us that. Well, tell him, Mark.
Well, they're finding ancient cities offshore many of our shorelines nowadays. I mean, almost all the different continents. If you search offshore, you're going to find remnants of these ancient civilizations.
No.
Certainly off the coast of Florida there is. And,
Oh gosh.
and,
Yeah, the Bimini Road is pretty
Oh,
close
yeah,
to there.
Bimini Road.
yeah. And then Japan, you were just mentioning.
Yep. And I think the Black Sea they actually were talking. I know that's not near. Well, it's underwater, but I mean they mentioned something about finding some sort of settlements below the waters of the Black Sea. But
I'm just wondering about all the technology. That technology's out there somewhere. I mean, hidden. Maybe. The changes that brought forth. Like once again with the mantle or something, it could have been destroyed. I'm sure a lot of it was, but pieces of this equipment that may be in these ocean beds somewhere that we've never ever discovered. And even if we were to discover it, I wonder how forthright they're going to be in bringing that out publicly.
They won't be.
Yeah.
And they have discovered all kinds of different ancient technology that they're keeping to themselves. These little secret societies are basically, on
I'm
the
sure they're
backs
using it.
of a lot of the Western countries of the world that you might call the controllers.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, these are the people that are in the money game.
yeah.
Right.
It's-
Same ones that are behind NASA, are behind the banks and the energy cartels.
Yeah. Seems kind of petty in the long run, having this amazing technology and all you want to do with it is make a buck,
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Or
The
keep
American
it to
way.
yourself and do some obscure thing with it when you could help mankind with it. But that's the way it goes. The way the world works.
Unfortunately.
You just gotta accept it the way it is and go forward. Can't be worrying about it too much.
No, that's true.
If you're in the position to try to change it, sure, I suggest it. But then a lot of people have been killed trying to change it. In fact, if I was out there talking about this stuff and I was associated with one of their owned institutions, I'd probably be dead by now. But since I'm kind of not, there's no one responsible for me.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a Dr. Harrington that was directly connected to NASA, and he was in charge of Planet X research, and he published several papers about it. He was killed. I mean,
How many people do you think have been, or do you know, or I mean, of the ones that you do know that have been killed due to the Planet X stuff, the information?
Well, there was a gondola in France that was just packed full of astronomers that I believe were about to put out information in regards to what they knew about Planet X, and that gondola met with an untimely accident, and there may have been
Mysterious accident.
Yeah.
20 people on it.
Oh my God.
I guess they're in a very dangerous game,
Yeah.
And
yeah. I mean, I'm not in a dangerous game because who's going to pay attention to me? I'm not associated officially with
any
any
of these
organization
organizations.
that people
Right.
look up to and respect.
Right.
Now,
It's
they're more concerned about McKinney, of course, because
Obviously.
he was a professor at Cornell and he does have credentials, but he's not paid for.
Right.
He's not a paid for and bought scientist. He's independent, and he's too outspoken now for them to go play their little death games off their mortal menu.
yeah. Whether
Well, people would, if something happened to him, that's just a ding, ding, ding.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Wait a
hey,
minute.
Well, maybe what this guy's saying is there is a lot
Yeah,
to it
because
here.
he died, and that's it's I definitely don't want to do that. But I'm sure the vast cover-ups and conspiracies abound on the subject, and really a limited amount of people are really in the know, unfortunately, and I guess our little small part in sort of spreading the knowledge and writing the books, also getting it out there and letting people know, and what they do with it, of course, is their own business, but
Well, it's going out to so few people. So, there's probably only a few thousand people that really know what's going on as far as Planet X goes.
Yeah.
And they know that, and that's okay with them.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Controller types don't care about a few thousand because that's not going to make a difference.
No.
'Cause, it's when the numbers get higher that they get more concerned. I have an e-group that I've been putting information out for a few years, and they basically capped it when it hit 2,500. There's some
Wow.
magic number or so. They started throwing people off in groves when it started to grow past that,
Mm-hmm.
and it stayed the same now. They won't let it go past 2,500.
Well, it's
And there's a myriad of different ways they can do this with the internet. One of the ways is they declare so many different servers that anything coming from my e-group is considered spam, so it shuts it down that way. And then they have a way to just throw off people in droves off the e-group, and they complain to me, hey, I've been unsubscribed. How come that happened? And this has happened hundreds of different times.
Huh.
But there's nothing I can do about it, And
Yeah.
so, and by the way, I'm not real worried about warning people anymore.
Right.
I
right.
mean, if I get on the phone and talk about this, I'm just discussing it in kind of a jovial manner. Just interesting information. I have no motivation other than that. Just letting people hear what I know and accept or reject it or laugh along with it if that's their attitude. Who cares?
That website.
Even if you take it seriously, what are you going to do besides laugh at it? A little?
There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
wait.
And all these
Wait.
people that have taken it so seriously, that have all this money, and have built spent how many billions of dollars on underground cities getting ready for it. They're not going to be any safer than
No,
you
they're
and I.
just building castles in the sand.
They're kidding themselves.
Exactly.
They really are kidding themselves.
Yeah.
So
I
you
think
can
that's-
just as well laugh at them and what they're doing as the whole situation, because we're all caught in it. We can't get off the planet to do anything about it.
No.
And once again, that website is www.planetxinbound.com. And our number here, if you want to call in, we've got one brave listener
That's
out of
right.
all of you guys that I see up here, and that number again is 336-9. What is the number again?
It's 336-909-1073.
Thank you. I had a brain lapse.
That's all right.
All right, 336-909-1073. Give us a call. Ask Mark a question. He'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. And definitely check out his site. And if you forgot, it's www.planetxinbound.com. You can also see that on our site, which is worldoftheunexplained.com. All right, we're driving right through this. You still all right
Just
with us, Mark?
Plowing along.
I'm right here.
All right, good.
Hanging right with you here.
Now, I don't even know how many sources there are in this book. It's just
Lots.
It's amazing. And for you guys out there listening to really understand what we're talking about here, we're just not even touching. We're touching maybe just a just a bare essentials of everything that's included in this book. And to get a better grasp on it, that's what I would say is just read the book.
Yeah,
go
it's
to
a
the
really
website,
fascinating
pick it up.
piece of work.
It's a great read. It reads really easy. It's not overly scientific to the point if you don't have any background in science, you can't understand it.
Yeah.
I was an English major, for God's sake, and I understand it fine. So, and I know nothing about science.
Yeah, it's,
but it's a great read, and it goes really fast.
Well compiled and
very well researched.
Yes.
I mean, how much time?
Yeah,
you spend putting
I
all
was
this
thinking
together?
that.
It has to have taken you forever.
Well, it's not the amount of time that I spent compiling it and putting it together. It's the amount of time all the other professional researchers and people, it's the amount of time they've put into it, because I've pulled together all their research. So I guess I've condensed together a lot of their time together, all in this one book. And before that, the first book, Blindsided, I even compiled together some of the prophecies, some of my favorite prophecies that I pulled together over the years that I had an interest in. But the second book, I wanted to make sure to appeal to people that have no interest in prophecy.
Right.
But for those who do, they may want to pick up the first book just to see the ones that I've chosen that tie in directly and clearly with the science information that goes right alongside of it.
Well, I've got. Let's discuss some of these prophecies. But first, I would like to talk about. I know you mentioned Hell Bop in the second book, and some of the other bigger named comets that we know of.
Yeah.
That we as just I guess everyday listeners of radio and television hear about in the media. What significance did you place on those comments?
Well, the thing about Hale-Bopp is the Vatican. Just think about this? Why would the Vatican own and have control of several huge telescopes to look for objects in the sky? Well, it's obvious they have.
We've all seen the movie The Omen. Did you catch that? I said we've all seen the movie The Omen. You remember in the beginning of the film that they're looking for the star to determine when the Antichrist was born. It was a joke.
Anyway,
they were looking for the. Anyway, go ahead. We're listening to you.
Well, what is right in the Bible, of course, is talk of wormwood.
Yes.
And from the best I can understand, they were wondering if Hale-Bopp was wormwood in the beginning, because it was coming in from the southerly direction. It is definitely tied in with Planet X because it's one of its solar system of objects, this Hale-Bopp. And in the beginning, they didn't know whether Hale-Bopp was the big guy or not. So, they were looking at it with one of their mini scopes and, discussing among themselves. In fact, I've got the information from, at one point, from a secretary in Arizona, from a scope there that they own, that was listening to the Jesuits discuss it openly back and forth. And they had access to, believe it or not, they even have access to live Hubble links, which the public isn't allowed to have.
Lord.
So the Vatican has some pull and is very concerned and very knowledgeable about these objects.
I noticed you
and when
mentioned...
Father Malachi Martin got on the
I remember
the Art Bell show and started discussing this openly, well, he didn't live too long after he did that.
Yeah, I thought he had died of old age, honestly. I mean, he was best known for his... Malachi Martin's best known for his work Hostage to the Devil, where he talks about exorcisms in the United States.
How many exorcisms did he...
Oh, you're thinking of another guy. No, this guy actually worked in... He was an actual priest at one time in the Vatican, if I'm not... in Vatican City.
He's a published author, is what,
Yeah. He wrote Hostage to the Devil, but wasn't he actually like one of the big time guys in there near the Pope? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was high up in the church. I couldn't really.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah,
very
I
respected.
can't either, even though I've probably discussed it and since long forgotten about it.
A very, very well respected man, though, Malachi Martin.
Yeah.
When he was alive.
Well, another well respected man that he was made fun of during his time, and they still try to downplay his work, is a guy by the name of Emanuel Velikovsky. who wrote some books. So one is called Earth in Upheaval, and he basically turned the scientific community on its ear, trying to say that catastrophism is what happens, and explained why. That it was these rogue objects coming through. And his books were #1 bestsellers at the time all over the world, but the scientific community wasn't about to get into them, so they did their best to, water him down and
discredit him.
And discredit him any way they could. I mean, not all of his conclusions were correct. I mean, he thought that Venus came out of Saturn at one point, but it turned, it's very plausible that. Venus is a new planet that was a comet that accompanied Planet X, and at one point settled into an orbit and was disrupting the surface of Earth every 50 or 60 years for a while as it passed by, as it was settling into its new orbit. But these are the kinds of things he discussed.
Right. Well, how long ago was that when he was discussing and publishing these books?
I believe these were in the 40s and 50s.
Oh, okay.
And people were very intrigued about his stuff.
I imagine so.
Well, let me ask you. I noticed that in the back of your book, you thank the Pope. Now, my question is, did you get a chance to meet the late Pope?
No, I never got the chance to meet.
Okay, that would have been really cool. That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
But especially since you had mentioned Malachi Martin and the ties with him. Well, let's shift gears a little bit here, if you don't mind. We've got 11 minutes left in the show. But
okay.
If you're okay with it, why don't you let some of the listeners know some of your favorite prophecies or some of the things that you thought were good out of the first book, out of Earth Changes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there was a gal from the 17th century England by the name of Mother Shipton. She first published in 17th century England. And she discusses things that she saw that was coming in the future. And, okay, I could read a little bit of her well, they're almost like poetry. It says, "A fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before this earth shall die. Mankind will tremble and frightened be for the 6 heralds in this prophecy. For those who live in the century through, in fear and trembling this shall do. Flee to the mountains and the dens, the bog and the forest and the wild fens. For storms shall rage and oceans roar, when Gabriel stands on sea and shore, and he blows his wondrous horn, O worlds die and new be born. There'll be a sign for all to see, be sure that it will certain be. Then love shall die and marriage cease, and nations wane as babes decrease. And wives shall fondle cats and dogs, and men live much the same as hogs. Yet greater signs there will be, as man nears latter century. 3 sleeping mountains gather breath, and spew out mud and ice and death, and earthquakes swallow town and town, in lands as yet to be unknown. Not every soul on earth will die as the dragon's tail goes sweeping by. Not every land on earth will sink, but these will wallow in stench and stink of rotting bodies of beast and man, of vegetation crisped on land. But the land that rises from the sea will be dry and clean and soft and free." Wow. Anyway, that's a little bit of Mother Shipton.
My gosh,
now,
that's some very
that's
poetic deep. And yet dark.
What is her history?
Dark, all right.
What is her background? I mean, you said 17th century. Was she a mystic then, or?
Mother Shipton. Well, she was somebody connected with the church.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that she was, had higher level consciousness, probably higher 500s, probably, for her to have visions like this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, obviously.
And then discuss them. And she was probably regarded as some sort of saint. And then she wrote down what she saw.
Yep.
Let's see, the dragon's tail is but a sign for mankind's fall and man's decline. And before this prophecy is done, I shall be burned at the stake at one. Okay, She actually predicted the date and time of her own death
Good
before
God.
dying, and was accurate.
That's creepy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
creepy, isn't it?
I guess it goes back to that consciousness thing you're talking about. You know, people with that
Oh yeah,
higher
you
level,
get the higher numbers.
they know, you know, or they have more.
Maybe it's they have a better, I don't know, a better access to the information. You know, maybe they're sitting on a different, they're looking down at a different perspective than somebody like me or you would be.
Who have probably a number of 38.
Yeah, probably. We're probably in the 20s. I don't know. But yeah, I mean that's amazing. It's amazing.
So it's really.
Well, she also discusses what will happen after this planet passes by. By the way, in Blindsided, I've uncovered some 50 names for Planet X, and one of them is a fiery dragon. So that that's the way that she discusses it. But it looks very much like a dragon's tail. This huge comet. It doesn't look like
That makes
a
sense.
nice little sweet comet with a straight little tail. These
No,
big
it's
comets are different looking.
spiraling.
They more look like a dragon's tail because they're not so. They're very erratic looking.
Right.
Very fiery. But she discusses the children and a golden age after the passage. Apparently for what she sees in her visions, that there will be children of second sights, and they'll grow graceful and humble. This is a whole new age that she's talking about after the passage. I guess after most of us are dead and gone, there'll be a new sort of civilization where people will perhaps, communicate a little differently,
Right.
maybe mind to mind, and
After
do
the
more. Who knows?
destruction breeds creation. I mean, you can look at that in nature. I mean, in Yellowstone, there are certain pine trees that I know of that have two different pine cones, and one opens up only when a big forest fire comes through. So when it's swept clean, then these new healthy
It's a
breeds of trees
cyclical rebirth.
come up, and then of course it would work with people as well, I'm sure.
Well, I worked for a solar company for a dozen years at one point, trying to bring about inexpensive, non-polluting solar electricity to this world. And we were basically stopped by the energy cartel through some underhanded legal and financial maneuvers.
Yeah.
And so you can't really change this civilization the way it is. It may take a huge catastrophic event just to push the reset button on this earth and bring about something a lot better.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I'm always an eternal optimist, no matter what happens. It's just like you were saying. Sometimes it takes a forest fire to really that is really needed in order to grow a whole new forest in its place.
Well, we definitely understand that. It's so. What other? I guess we've got 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
here.
Any other
What would you like to either another prophecy or anything
Or
that you would like to leave the
Any
listeners with?
comments?
I'm sorry, I had trouble hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were saying we've got about 5 minutes left. Is there another prophecy you'd like to discuss, or anything you'd like to leave the listeners, leave them with?
Well, let's see. What else can I look for here? There's another. Okay. Well, here's a short one.
Okay.
It's from a 12th century prophecy about America.
Oh.
From another saint, the Saint Hildegard. It's one of the earliest visions ever made concerning the future of the United States was made by a Saint Hildegard 3 centuries before the New World was discovered. She predicted that one day there will come forth a great nation across the ocean that will be inhabited by people of different tribes and descent. A good description of America, a melting pot of immigrants from foreign countries. For this future nation, however, the saint sounded several warnings, all of which would come about approximately at the time of the appearance of a great comet. Just before the comet comes, St. Hildegard forecasts many nations, including America, will be scrooged by want and famine. When the comet does finally pass over, the great nation will be devastated by earthquakes, storms, and great waves of water, causing much want and plagues. The comet, by its tremendous pressure, will force much out of the ocean and flood many countries. All coastal cities will live in fear, with many destroyed. Anyway, that's her sweet prophecy.
Yeah, none of these are good.
No, not something wonderful.
Where's the happy ending here?
Bedtime story.
Right, might as well leave on a sweet note, right?
Exactly.
The world will be better, but we'll all
die.
We'll all be dead before we see the better world. Okay,
And the
something
few,
like that.
the small handful of us that do survive, well, we're gonna have to go through hell to get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it'll be nice then, but those go like, wow, I don't know if I cared living on turnips, for the last 10 years.
I mean, we talked about the first time. I remember the first time me and you talked, Mark. We talked about the need for planting, these seeds and these crops. I mean, it was something that was going to be a necessity if you are one of the fortunate or maybe unfortunate few to survive an encounter with Planet X passing.
I don't really feel that everyone needs to be planning for this. I mean, there's a lot of people who've lived rich, full lives down here in Florida. They're in their 70s and 80s, and I'm sure. What are they going to do by getting ready for this? There's no reason for it.
Well,
I mean, and there's a lot of people that are financially unable to even start the plan for something like this. So, it's just interesting information for the majority of the people.
Well, I know. At one point you were saying you could build your own kind of dome for about $100, something like that. Is a fairly inexpensive amount of money.
Well, there is a way. Yeah, at the time I remember the conversation. There is a way to build kind of an earthen dome where you use the earth itself.
Ooh.
You kind of dig out kind of a dome type place for it, and you do have to have something covering it. But yeah, there is a way to do that. I'd have to research that information again to uncover it. But they're very inexpensive ways to. I remember from some ancient Indian knowledge that discussed one of the last passages that they simply, the survivors ran up to the hills and found like little gullies and places to protect themselves against the wind. And those are the ones that survived. They didn't have anything.
Yeah,
they just knew that the hills were the place to go, and they pretty much surmised that because the winds were picking up, quite a bit, that they had to kind of cover themselves up somehow and then just wait it out and then come back. So a real low-tech way to get through it.
Oh, definitely.
But effective, I guess.
Head for the hills.
Well, Mark, we appreciate you being on with us tonight. And if you'll hang on the line, we'll talk a little bit more after we sign off here. But guys, it's midnight, and his website is www.planetxinbound.com. Check it out, or come to our website, and we link right to it. You can check it out there. I'm Jay Scott.
I'm Shred Lackey.
And we're World of the Unexplained, and we're saying thanks a lot, and good night. We'll see you guys next Monday from 10 to midnight.
Take care, and maybe we've explained a little bit of the unexplained tonight.
maybe so, Mark.
Maybe we have.
All right. Thanks again.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Okay.